Hi, I'm Manny Botticelli, and welcome to my June 2019 horoscope report for you. My intention for this video is to equip you with the information that you need regarding the astrological transits to have the best month possible. I will give you information about things that are occurring in June that will affect your sign and the general transits that will affect you, at the same time as understanding cycles that are at play for a much longer period of time to put everything into context to let you know what you're working with this month. Definitely go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, where you can check out my extensive astrology blog, including new moon and full moon blogs, to assist you with using those power days of the month each month. Also, if you'd love to sign up for my astrology apprenticeship program, if you resonate with how I teach and you want to learn, you can definitely check that out at anniehelpsyou.com, as well as book a live reading. If you were looking to transform your life, check out my book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life in the World in 28 Days. It's a wonderful little affirmation prayer book that is super powerful and positive to help uplift you. So you can check that out on Amazon or at radicalprayerbook.com. So what's going on for you this month? I'm going to go into the details for your sign. I'm going to also pop in at some point the astrology charts that I'm looking at, so I can show you for the early, middle, and late degree placements, depending on where you are in the sign, how there could be some differences and what things are the same for every member of the sign. And also we'll talk about the general transits that will absolutely be affecting you and how you can best use those energies. So let's see what's going on for your sign now. Hello, Gemini friends. I'm excited to share all of the things I think are most important for you for June 2019. The first thing I want to talk about is birthdays. Most of you will be having your birthday if you're watching for your sun sign. So I want to address birthday wishes and explain some very important things about this time for you. And this is actually even relevant if you're watching for your moon or your rising sign as Gemini, because some of that same energy of rebirth and renewal is going to factor in for you all regardless of your Gemini placement. So we'll talk about that. We've got a lot of happy busyness and things that Geminis love in excess because the planets are continuing to move through Gemini. So this month you're going to get boosts from the Sun, Mercury, and Venus will at some point move into Gemini as well. So lots of kisses from those personal planets that are going to enhance everything Gemini about you, that can guarantee overstimulation and over busyness and exhaustion, but can be super busy and fun and have a lot of the things that you hold dear in excess. The mood of the month from the eclipses coming in, as well as the post or the pre-shadow period for Mercury Retrograde starting towards the end of the month, as well as the planets starting to move into Cancer, are going to bring an emotional tone and a need for taking time to yourself and internal focus to balance out all of this busyness and productivity. The eclipses are powerful, and although they're in July, the first one's at the beginning of July, and we will start to feel the effects of these eclipses even as soon as May. So June is prime time for eclipse manifestations, and I'm going to go into lots of detail as to where you can expect these changes. But the general summary can be encapsulated in my theme of the month for you, which is your turn for money. At different times for different signs, the focus comes to the money house. And for you, that's this time. So the eclipses can bring in more money. So I'm going to talk about specifics of that, as well as talk about where the drama, the surprises, the closures could occur in the areas of life where the lunar eclipse is coming in and sealing some things off. So first I want to give you an eclipse tutorial to help you understand when this eclipse cycle occurred last, what years you can look back to see what themes were occurring at those times, where you can factor in and see there are going to be some similar themes coming up in your life at this time, and then also explain some more about how eclipses work and what you can expect. Then I'll drop the charts in, I'll show you the things that are most on my mind for you and where those eclipses are going to be hitting for early, middle, and late degree Gemini placements. Then I will go in and actually, I won't show this to you. I'll come back on the screen and talk about the general transits and my favorite dates of the month for important things and other things to be aware of. So that's the sequence of what we're about to cover. Now I'll give you the eclipse tutorial. So I want to give you a little eclipse tutorial, and that will help you to better use the energy that we're going to talk about specifically for your sign as to where the eclipses are hitting. But general understandings of what you do with eclipse energy, how it manifests. I also want to talk about this particular eclipse cycle, the Cancer Capricorn eclipse cycle, and give you a framework for when it's happened before and what kind of things you can expect based on what happened at those times, okay? So, solar eclipses tend to bring in new energy, new opportunities, new directions. There's a solar eclipse on July 2nd, and that's going to be at 10 degrees of Cancer. We'll go into the details about where that's looking for house placement soon, but just in general, it's in the energy of Cancer. Okay, so new beginnings in that energy. The lunar eclipse is happening on July 16th at 24 degrees of Capricorn. Okay, so lunar eclipses tend to bring something to a culmination, like it's been building, and well, now it's arrived, or it can end something, remove something, eclipse something out. So the eclipse energies at the times that the eclipses are strongest, well, because we're in an eclipse cycle for a couple of years at a time. So for instance, from this eclipse cycle, Cancer Capricorn started mid-2018 and runs through mid-2020. So anytime from mid-2018 to mid-2020, anything can happen that's eclipse related. You can have eclipse news nowhere near an eclipse time because there's a storyline that's at play and it's acting in your life. Okay, so you'll see it's a theme that takes place over that time. But when it's eclipse time, the month of the eclipses and the 4 to 6 weeks before and after, so over a course of several months at a time, it's more likely that something will bring this eclipse storyline that's kind of running in the backdrop out into the front in a big dramatic way, in a big notable way, with things that were pending or discussed coming to fruition or coming up to be dealt with. Okay, so now we have that time. So July is the eclipse time, but we can start really getting like heated up hot eclipse energies middle May. And that can also run through, mid-September is like this major eclipse season. So as we're getting closer to July, news is more likely to come in and things will come to a head. Okay, so that's the first thing to know. The second thing to know is that think back to like 2009 to 2011 and think back to 2000 and 2001, because those were the last times that we had the Cancer Capricorn eclipse cycle. So you can think about the themes that have been going on since mid-2018. Think about what happened 2009, 2011. Think about what happened in 2000, 2001, and those are the kind of themes that are likely to come up again. Now, I know I'm going to get this question, so I'm just going to address this here. Yes, we did have the credit, housing, financial debacle of the century in that time frame of 2008, 2009, 2010, like around there. There was quite a lot of strife in a lot of sectors, and many people had dramatic losses of house, home, work, things like that. So is it possible that those energies are going to come back in again? Yes, absolutely. Is it going to manifest that same exact way? Probably not, because there were other factors going on in the world that contributed to what that looked like. And there were different factors at play that created that bubble that then popped, than are at play now. But definitely storylines similar to that. If you think back and you were moving house or having things involving housing or moving or home or work or expanding work or family and like all of that, those kind of things are going to definitely be current. And the other themes that occurred that aren't related to those areas of life are very likely going to come back into the forefront. And those are going to be dependent on the sign, which we're going to go into more details about. But I just wanted to give you this storyline, like, okay, this principle of energy not ever disappearing or being made new, that there's this finite amount of energy, but it's changed around. It just changes form. It's very evident at eclipse time because something is removed and something is put in. And sometimes you get the new thing put in before the other thing is removed. Sometimes they happen at the same time. Sometimes there's, staggering where you like have the thing taken, there's this gaping hole and you're like, where's the thing to fill the energy? It hasn't come in yet. It takes a little time. The way I commonly see this as like a really good eclipse example is like a child is about to be born and then a grandparent passes away, So like in that same amount of time, this representative of family energy dissolves into another form, takes the form of a kid, And it's like, okay, so now this energy is present in that form. So that specific example will happen in a lot of cases, but there's so much more to it than that. So, just be on the lookout for the things that want to fall away, and the degree to which we can let those things transition away are going to affect how we can embrace the new things. One thing that I do recommend that you look into is a homeopathic remedy called gelsemium, Gelsemium. Okay, I'm not a doctor. You don't have to have a license to work with these. You can find it on Amazon or at a health food store. Gelsemium is a homeopathic remedy that is traditionally used for stage fright, but it's also used from a more, if you're looking at the energies of the components, it's more having to do with showing up for the things that are expected from you and showing up for the things that are unavoidable. So even like midwives will give this remedy at childbirth when the woman is showing up for like the big show, So just think about the gelsemium and look into that, because it could help those things that are happening, just to kind of release the fear around stepping into your new life that wants to show up. Okay, so let's look at where in the chart these changes are likely to occur. Okay, so a lot of the things we're going to talk about are going to be themes for all Gemini placements, but there are going to be places where we differentiate early, middle, and late degrees. So the early are pretty much the May-born, or 0 to 9 degrees, middle around June 1st through 10th, or 10 to 19 degrees, and late around June 11th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees. And if you're asking the question, is this relevant for me if Gemini is my moon or rising sign? It is actually equally as relevant for you all, because those different placements are different windows. The sun chart, the moon chart, the rising chart are all windows out of the same house of our experience. So they're maybe on different, sides of the house and having different views, but they're all relevant. And if you watch for at least your rising and your sun, you're going to have a much more comprehensive picture of what the month is going to look like for you. Some people also watch for their moon sign and say that it's very accurate for that placement as well. Okay, so if you missed that, just rewind back. And now we're going to talk about the things that we summarized before. Okay, so I'm going to use, let's just get some of this static out of here. I'm just going to use the middle degree chart to talk about some things that are true for all placements this month. Okay, so remember at birthday time, the birthday time is when the sun in the sky gets back to the same point that it was at in your chart. It takes a year to do that. The sun in the chart represents your desires, the things you want. Every planet represents certain aspects of our being and experience, and the sun represents desire, creativity. So when the sun in the sky matches with the sun, in the placement you were born, it opens up a portal for your desires, which are birthday wishes. So if you do a search for Making Wishes Come True, Annie, you'll find my video on how you can use astrological power periods to move yourself along a continuum towards the life of your dreams. So definitely own those birthday wishes. They are astrological and they are powerful. And this is a time of rebirth and renewal and regeneration and a whole new cycle starting for all Gemini placements, whether you're watching for your sun, moon, or rising sign. Because even if it's not your birthday, the sun crossing over your ascendant or your moon blesses and enhances that space to open up new possibilities for you. I'm calling the theme of this eclipse cycle, Your Turn for Money. And that's because there's a predominant experience of the solar eclipse being in or near the second house. Okay, you can see it's going to be there. Early degree placements, middle degree placements. You may also feel that in the first house, middle degree placements, but it's close enough to the second to bring that money factor in. And even you late degree placements, if it doesn't happen near the second house cusp, there's still this major energy of money coming in as a theme from the other eclipse in the 8th house. So the 2nd and 8th houses are very much about money and resources. And so for all Geminis, there's this infusion of information and experience about to come in the financial sector. So let's break this down a little bit. Okay, first thing we want to see is that early degree placements pretty much have the second and eighth house as their primary polarity that's being affected by this Cancer Capricorn eclipse cycle that's been going from 2018 into 2020. Okay, so second and eighth house is primary for you. And we'll talk more about what that looks like. But I just want to, for those of you who like to learn, I want to show you to differentiate here. For your middle degree placements, that 10-degree Cancer eclipse could be in the second house or it could be in the first house. So it brings in this first house theme for the whole eclipse cycle, not just this time. And the 24-degree lunar eclipse is happening in the eighth house for your middle degree placements, but there's still this theme of the seventh house being brought in. Now for you, we'll talk about what that means. I just want to, give the background here. But you late degree people, while you will have this storyline of second and eighth coming up for you, there is a strong energy in the first and seventh house as well. All right, that's a little bit more so for you all than the others. But what is the same for all Gemini placements is that the first and second houses relate to you and your stuff. And the seventh and eighth houses relate to other people and their stuff, pretty much is the story. So the me-we polarities are being aspected for all Gemini placements. And that is something that is going to be the same for everybody. So the energy of we is collapsing a bit to focus more on me because the energy is moving from, this area of the chart to this area of the chart. So this first and second house is being accentuated into differing degrees for your different, early, middle, late degree placements, but to some extent for both of you, for all of you all, it's like collapsing the energy or giving support from other people into your individual things. Other people's resources, you benefiting from them. Other people's things they've accomplished, helping you. And in some cases, support that was given from other people may collapse in favor of your own autonomy and your own increase in income. It's money, money, money houses. A lot of people are going to have new income sources, new value systems. Sometimes this comes in directly through just straight up more money. I've seen it happen so many times. I'm using the late degree chart, but I'm talking about this for all of you. But sometimes the experience of having more money comes a little bit more indirectly. So it could be a new value system where you budget differently, or you feel like, oh, wow, you know what? I don't need to make all that extra money and I can work less. And so, you're getting to do more of what you want, or you spend less so you have more. There's something having to do with opportunities to earn more money, have more income, have a better experience with your budget, have new material things. I've seen this show up as material items that people have really been wanting showing up. Sometimes that can happen because a person gives it to you or something that someone has becomes yours, inheritances and things like that. And sometimes it can be that they're fueling you, helping you, or that you borrow money. This is a big opportunity for loans to come in, or funding capital of some sort. So when the eclipse cycle is happening with, as we're talking about, some drama or endings or closures or changes in your relationships are very likely. Surprise endings, dramatic endings, a lot of relationships are going to end. But for many Geminis, it's going to just be a new chapter. So an old chapter is eclipsing out with the lunar eclipse, and a new chapter is opening. And the theme of this is going to be more autonomy, more independence, more of what you want within the relationship space. And in some cases, or else. There might be that kind of ultimatum where it's like, I will have this, what I'm looking for, or I will not be in the relationship. And many people are going to come to their own different versions of that. And it could be a little bit softer, not a direct ultimatum. It could be an internal decision that you make, like, I am not putting up with this anymore. And you don't even say anything to anyone, but your energy holds it. It could be an amazing spiritual or psychological breakthrough. This 8th house, spiritual and psychological breakthrough. Something can eclipse out and just shift that all of a sudden makes everything better here. If you are a person that needs more money, or you're having some issues with money or anything involving money, and you haven't gotten the book Tapping into Wealth by Margaret Lynch, this would be a fantastic time to do that, because it can really help you clear out the blocks to the energy that wants to come in. I know that I'm going to have somebody write and say, no money came in for me, that was wrong. And that means that you didn't hear me, because I'm talking about potentials, first of all, and the many different ways it can come in. The second thing is, we always have to remember, we can only experience what we're a vibrational match for. The law of attraction is at play, always. So if you have a conscious belief system that you should have money and you have good money thoughts, that doesn't mean you don't have an unconscious or genetic memory that's holding you back. But Tapping into Wealth, this book, can really help you to clear out the blocks. And you can, I'm sure there are other ways you can do this too, but I just know this one works really well. And it's super inexpensive. The book's like $15 on Amazon or Audible. So if you're ready to change your money picture and you want to help the eclipse energies by clearing out stuff so they can manifest better for you, then I highly recommend that. Because also wrapped up in that book, she talks about toxic money and money, you know, that we're getting from other people that's challenging. And there are probably going to be some drama or challenges for some of you that come in having to do with other people controlling you with money, or money coming to you from other people that has a whole bunch of strings attached, or something, a lot of hoops that you have to jump through. And your relationship with that type of pattern or dynamic may need to be adjusted. So some inner work might be required in order for you to get the real gold from this. Many people can have the topic of debt come up. Debt can be paid off. The eclipse can eclipse out the debt, possibly through the money that came in here, or money that comes in from from anywhere. So money is just being highlighted in a huge way. And also the bringing of the unseen realm into the seen realm, and using intuition to balance the two. That's a major theme of this eclipse cycle. So for you middle and late degree placements that may have a 1st and 7th house polarity being emphasized more than the 2nd and 8th house, this could have to do really more with the healing of codependency, the claiming of your autonomy and independence, the claiming of your own flow, the healing of your physical body, rather than being wrapped up in what other people are doing, like really putting yourself into your body, grounding into your body, and rebranding of yourself and figuring out, what you're supposed to be doing, and doing that in a bigger way. And some of the energy you're going to be using for that will be taken from this area of life. The eclipse time really shows us that law that no energy is not created nor destroyed. It simply just changes forms. So it's shuffling around between these sectors, and sometimes it can bounce back the other way. You claim some of your personal time. That means you can show up in your relationships even more. And this is this feeding back and forth, or that you help someone in a way that's fulfilling to you, and that helps you to better define your role and your certainty about who you are and what you're doing. Okay, so now I want to talk about the general transits, and so you'll see me come back on the screen and I will give you my favorite dates for doing important things and point out some other things that I feel you need to know for this month. I'm calling the theme of the month for all signs for June 2019, Dramatic Eclipse News and Changes. Twice a year we have eclipses, and at that time, radical changes, massive trajectory shifts, major endings, brilliant new beginnings are all more prominent as an experience for us. We are moving along an eclipse cycle of the Cancer Capricorn cycle. So I'm going to go into a lot more details about how that can affect you from the general standpoint. Of course, I've already gone into extensive detail for your sign. In general, this month is full of opportunities to continue moving projects along. The open window that we have that's free and clear from personal planet retrogrades extends until around June 20th. So starting around then, Mercury retrograde pre-shadow period will start making its way deeper and deeper and deeper until the actual retrograde at the beginning of July, and Mercury will be retrograde all of July. So in July, we have 2 eclipses and Mercury retrograde, but in June, we are feeling the effects of Mercury about to go retrograde and the eclipses that haven't happened yet. So every once in a while, I'll have somebody say, why are you talking about this now? That sounds like it should be for July. But as I've just explained to you, the manifestations of astrological transits are not as black and white as they may be presented out of simplicity. But I like to go into the yummy details because these are the things that really, really, really start to help you build your astrological understanding and to use these energies in the best way. Okay, so Mercury retrograde is a time when lots of changes come. Plans that we made often change, shift, or are called into question. Sometimes they actually work out, but there's usually this heavy energy of being called into question. So June may be a time for planning and pulling things through, especially the first 3 weeks. But there's also going to be this tone towards the end of the month, especially that things that seem like they were set may start to, you're just not sure if they're going to happen. So there's that energy. Plus, coupled with that, eclipses bring big news. So you could be planning on doing this, and then all of a sudden eclipse news comes in and guess what? You're not doing that. That's totally changed. So I always recommend to leave things as flexible as possible and just to be open to the changes that may come. And when you're making agreements and arrangements, just make them knowing that there's a chance they're going to change, because that will help you to have the appropriate relationship with what it is you're working with. In general, this month, these planets in Gemini, lots of energy in Gemini is bringing crazy busyness and dizzying, just kind of options swirling around. Some things will be manifesting as like options gelling, like, okay, there's this and this and this actually happening. But other things will be like, do I do this? Do I do this? Do I do this? Do I do this? Is like a typical Gemini energy. At the same time, Cancer energies are going to be just as strong this month as the Gemini energies and have equal weight. And those are more emotional, nostalgic. So definitely expect high emotion, both from the Cancer energies and the eclipses. Nostalgia, home and family and housing topics get brought right into the forefront. And this is for every sign, because the energy of Cancer is prominent for every sign. These 2 July eclipses that are bringing in these changes, we discussed them quite a lot for your individual sign, but I want to talk about some of the general transit energies. So that has to do with the Cancer Capricorn cycle that started mid-2018 and will go into mid-2020. And so everyone can expect major changes in the areas of home and work, male and female energies, mother and father energies, mother and father responsibilities and roles, our inner world versus our outer world, our emotional space versus our outer space, our childhood versus our adult picture. Those are themes that are going to be brought up into focus for all signs, regardless of what house it's falling into for your specific sign. This general theme, or these general themes, are things that you can expect for the whole time. So as we discussed, there's a quite extended timeline for these eclipses. So between May and even August into September is eclipse season. So radical changes occurring during that time, or during that whole time. So there's an equal amount of positive aspects and challenging aspects this month. And because of that, it's really your attitude, perspective, and inner work that can change, like can tip the scales as to how you experience this month. Okay, so with all things being equal, like, oh, dicey, oh, great. If you're riding the line, how you're seeing things and how you use the things that come in are going to really change how you experience this month. So you have a lot of power in your hands, but it is going to take some work on your part to try to frame the things that are occurring to stay on the positive side. Because if you slip into the victim mode and feel like life is happening to you, it's going to be a lot more difficult to get the gold from this month. I'm going to hit a couple of highlights about some specific dates to note. And if you would like a more detailed written explanation of the dates that have notable transits and what the transits are and what you can expect with that, definitely sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com. When you sign up for my free email newsletter, you get this general transit overview a month early, written in your inbox so that you can use it for planning purposes and see what days are more stressful and what days are, lighter. I used to go into like a lot of detail about all of these, but I've had many requests to try to shorten my videos, which are already super long and detailed. So in order to reach that objective, definitely sign up for my free email newsletter. I don't send out a ton of email newsletters because I don't like how that feels to get it. So when you sign up for my newsletter, know that you will be treasured and honored and respected. So I'm going to go into, let's see, a few here. June 2nd, like really actually the first several days of the month are my favorite days of the month to do anything important. It might just have it that you have to do these important things on other days, and that's totally fine. But if you can plan something, if there's something that you're planning, something that you have, an intention to do ahead of time, this early part of the month, like the first 3 or 4 days or so, is more sweet and uninterrupted by the intermittent challenging aspects than any other time in the month, because the rest of the month it's like sweet, dicey, sweet, dicey, sweet, dicey, right on top of each other, often on the same day. But this little cluster right at the beginning, you're in this free time, free from personal planet retrogrades. You are in this time where the aspects are sweet. You've got the new moon on June 3rd in Gemini. This is a month where a lot of travel opportunities are going to abound because Gemini energy is prominent. New moon in Gemini and full moon in Sagittarius are all things that tend to bring travel and opportunities for expansion and moving around. Okay, so try to do your important things in the beginning of the month if you can help it. Otherwise, I always say intuitively align your actions with the energy that you're experiencing. Because what happens, again, it's like people want to have a black and white answer and say, is this a good day or a bad day? The answer is, we don't know, okay? Because it depends on how you experience it. A lot of these aspects you can feel, even though they're happening on one day, you can feel them up to 5 or a week or longer before they happen. So they're mixing energies, just like mixing flavors in a meal. And they fade in and fade out. So you have to tune in, and if you have to do something, you kind of feel that internal sense of timing and that divine synchronicity lining up in front of you and say, okay, and now, it's just like catching a wave. If you've ever been surfing, it's like you have to wait for that exact second. And if you hit it just right, then you coast and have an amazing ride. But that's what we're trying to do. So no astrologer and no horoscope in the world is going to be able to give you all of the answers that you need. You need to tune in, given the information that you're given, and find your own way according to how energy is moving through you, because there could be a transit on a day that's amazing, and in your personal chart, which we can't see from the general chart perspective, you could be having a challenging lineup. So, you just have to follow your flow. Okay, so beginning of the month, awesome. New moon on June 3rd, time to make your new moon wishes. And I have a blog about the new moons and the full moons on my website to help you best use those days. So if you want to see how you can best use your new moon in Gemini wishes, you can do a search for new moon in Gemini Annie. I think if you even just do that on any search, it will come up. That blog will come up. Okay, so we have a lot of stressful aspects this month, oppositions and squares, which are putting pressure on a situation. Okay, so for some people, this could be crunch time to make something happen. For some people, this could be an interference with plans that were made or an interference with certainty that you had. Also, it could be overstimulation and overdoing and overcommitting. So just be really careful there. There are going to be a lot of forces that are working against, encouraging you to overdo at the same time as working against you if you actually do that. Okay, in the middle of the month, this Jupiter square Neptune, that we had this happen in January. We're going to have this happen again in September. In general, this is a time where the odds are more in favor of a disappointment now than a triumph. If you're not, again, listening to this, best way to describe it is it's your inner limits, finding and setting your inner limits, because Jupiter's expansive energy just wants to go, whoo, expand, 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 expand. And then Neptune throws questions into that, throws, a lack of clarity, throws confusion. So it's like you feel this expansion wanting to come, but you either don't know how to use it, how to do it, or in which way to go, what direction. So definitely try to follow the flow and settle into the new norm of what you've already expanded, rather than trying to continue too much expansion, if possible. This full moon in Sagittarius at almost 26 degrees on June 17th will bring fullness, completion, fruition to all things Sagittarius. So anything involving teaching, learning, international travel or business, different countries, different cultures, different languages, spiritual pursuits, anything involving the church, if you're, whether it's a specific church or just spirituality in general. And a lot of trips or information about trips or gelling of trips could come at this time, or education opportunities. Okay, look out for that whole thing of the overdoing, like I talked about, especially around June 23rd. This could be like where too much of a good thing occurs. When there's an opposition with Venus and Jupiter, or with anything in Jupiter, Jupiter tends to be more benevolent in its opposition form. So this is something that could be just like too much of a good thing. So, overdoing, try to guard your immune system. And if you're watching your money, then be extra careful right now, because your drive to splurge will definitely be more. So if you're on a budget, be careful of the elated energies that could occur at this time, because you could go on a spending frenzy and it could take you off track. Okay, so in general, those are the things that I most wanted to talk about. There are lots more details, as I discussed, but in order to try to keep this brief and focused, I've just hit some of the highlights. So definitely go to anniehelpsyou.com. If you'd like to book a live reading, you can do that there. You can also book a reading with my apprentice, Marilee. And Marilee is amazing. So you can see more about how to connect with her on my readings page at anniehelpsyou.com. You can check out my extensive blog. If you'd love to have written horoscopes from me, you can go to cozybysweetstarlight.com. And I do written horoscopes a month ahead, sometimes talking about different things than we talk about in the video. So you get a more extensive view and a written version there, plus lifestyle blogs. And definitely check out my book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life in the World in 28 Days. You can see that on Amazon, and you can buy that internationally. It also can be available and ordered, either if they're not already, at booksellers across the world, or you can see it at radicalprayerbook.com. So I hope you have a wonderful month. I hope the eclipses bring you good news and lots of chances for wonderful transformation, and I'll see you next month. Bye.